Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one. Doctor everything, make you feel alright. Instead of asking him how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby. Cause in this life, things are much harder than the afterworld. In this life, you're on your own. Elevator tries to break you down. Go crazy, punch a higher floor. If you don't like what you're living in, take a look around you. At least you got friends. There, call my old lady. Friendly word. Just picked up the phone, dropped it on the floor, said, that's all I heard. Are we gonna let the elevator bring us down? Oh no, let's go! Let's go crazy. Let's get nuts. Look for purple banana till they put us in a truck. Let's go!
So it's a little known fact that Prince also got his clothes from his wife's Ann Taylor stuff, and his daughter's dance recital costume. In the fall of 1984, Prince was riding high, as they say, and presumably on a purple motorcycle, after conquering the entertainment world with both the box office and Billboard success of the previous summer's Purple Rain, a work that, even in the context of an otherwise legendary career, would go on to be the one most closely identified with his legacy, and that would feature some of his most indelible hits, such as the title track, When Doves Cry, and Let's Go Crazy. Also significant, that same fall, I entered third grade. But Tipper Gore didn't need to worry about me. I wasn't listening to Prince. Up until then, my music taste had been geared more toward the oldies tapes my parents had passed along to me, the Broadway soundtrack to South Pacific, and a 3-LP set of Disney records, my favorite of which was Mickey Mouse Disco, featuring such dance club hits as Macho Duck and a 4-on-the-floor version of Chim Chim Cheree. Whatever awareness I had of Prince didn't come from the radio or MTV, but largely from unfavorable discussions of him at Sunday school. This was in a small, mostly white paper mill town in the Bible Belt. Erotic city it was not. So, unsurprisingly, Prince was regarded as an oddity, and fittingly enough, many of the questions I had could be found in his earlier hit, Controversy. Was he black or white? Was he straight or gay? Did he believe in God? There was no question, though, that the skinny motherfucker with the high voice believed in me. I mean, not me, but the me in the lyrics, himself. And his ever-present arrogant sneer suggested that he knew he could do anything he put his dirty, dirty mind to. Things I couldn't even begin to imagine, to be honest, because I didn't even really know how much of that sex stuff was supposed to work anyway. So to an 8-year-old in Canton, North Carolina, Prince was a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma, swathed in purple lace and lame, dancing suggestively in high heels. But before his pan-pop cultural ubiquity of 1984, I'd never heard of the guy. To me, he just seemingly popped up out of nowhere. which is maybe why I was so willing to believe it when I heard from a schoolmate that Prince had also just popped up in the next town over, randomly showing up at the pet store in the Asheville Mall to buy a poodle. And then the kid who told me all this said that Prince tried to dye the poodle purple and accidentally killed it. That poor dog. What a goddamn weirdo. But under any kind of scrutiny, the story just didn't hold up. Prince wasn't performing in Asheville. Back then, nobody came to Asheville. Why would Prince, one of the biggest stars on the planet, just appear in the middle of nowhere to buy a dog? Not ready yet. God damn it. No. Take that away. Well, okay, it's up now. Fuck. All right. All right. Just instead of, I don't know, in Hollywood or whatever. Why would Prince, one of the biggest stars on the planet, just appear in the middle of nowhere to buy a dog instead of, I don't know, in Hollywood or whatever? I didn't know Prince lived in Minnesota. It's not like my parents let me see Purple Rain. At the time, I believed the story, but as I got older, I realized that this was probably just one of those urban legends that, even in pre-internet days, still managed to make it from town to town. Like the one about Richard Gere and the gerbil, or somebody waking up in a tub full of ice with their kidneys missing, or whatever. Bullshit, you might say, but then the other guy's all, no man, it happened to a dude my cousin knows. Proximity lent credibility, and so it was with Prince and the poodle. I just came to assume that every small town in America had the same Prince story, but with their own mall instead. Eventually, I got into pop music and rock and rap and all the other stuff that everybody was listening to, but I was mostly indifferent to Prince for the rest of the 80s, except for the Bat Dance video because I was a nerd. Grunge turned me into a snooty, flannel-clad dipshit for much of high school, but funny enough, that's also when I finally got Prince. And this was the Diamonds and Pearls and Love Symbol album period, which was sort of a weird time to just be getting into Prince, but something about it grabbed me and I was all in. I wrote my first substantial paper in college on Prince, and I included it in my graduate portfolio because I was that proud of it. I recently read back over it, and if you'll permit me, I'd like to share an excerpt with you. No, I'm just kidding. As it turns out, it's fucking awful. And I could barely get through it again. But it was about Prince and his impact on pop culture and white America's fear of black male sexuality and all that. But honestly, it was years too late for any actual relevance because this was at a time when Prince's pop cultural capital was at its ebb. This was his wilderness period, really, on par with Bob Dylan getting born again and only doing preachy religious songs no one liked. Prince had changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, stopped speaking, scrawled slave on his face, torpedoed his record contract, and released a bunch of bad albums at a manic pace. Sure, Prince had a reputation for mercurial weirdness, but it seemed like a bit much. It was not what any of us envisioned when Prince had said, "Let's go crazy," but crazy is kind of what it looked like. And forgive me, because I don't want to sound flippant about mental illness, but the song's called Let's Go Crazy, not Let's Go Through an Emotionally Unstable, Not Really at My Best Rough Patch. So please bear with me. Thankfully, Prince eventually got his shit together and went back to being Prince and had a bit of a comeback, killing it at the Super Bowl and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, releasing some decent albums and serendipitously delighting the world by showing up in weird places like the French Open, on stage with some random hotel lounge band, or on your doorstep with the Jehovah's Witnesses, marking the only times in history anyone has been pleasantly surprised to receive a copy of The Watchtower. But then, just a little shy of 2 years ago, Prince died. And as if you needed reminding, the world pretty much went to shit after that. I mean, there's Trump, obviously, who as a hulking, repulsive, cantaloupe-hued lout is pretty much the polar opposite of tiny, purple, sexy Prince. But we also have Nazis in the streets, violence that occurs with lunar cycle regularity, kids eating fucking Tide Pods, freaky weather events, and I feel like I should clarify, since we're talking about Prince here tonight, that I don't mean the good freaky, but, massive firestorms, a goddamn hurricane here in Atlanta, and very recently something called a bomb cyclone, which, despite its rad as fuck name, is nothing like a housequake. Hang on, sorry. I'm getting a text. Sorry, it was just a ballistic missile alert. So, because that's just the way life is now. Electric word life. It means forever, and that's a mighty long. Actually, you know what? The way things are going, it might mean the middle of next week if we're lucky. But are we gonna let the elevator bring us down? Well, speak for yourself, but I mean, knowing me, probably I will. Which is why I have to call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, or rather go see that therapist in Buckhead. You know the one, Dr. Everything Will Be Marginally Better. Let's Go Crazy was intended as a sort of buck the routine, life-affirming rave-up, an exhortation to seek the elusive purple banana till they put us in the truck. But today, as infuriating and chaotic as the world seems, Let's Go Crazy just sounds redundant, because I kind of already feel like I'm going insane every time I look at the news. In the course of the now standard and expected social media celebrity morning ritual, I posted nothing but Prince-related stuff for several days after his death, and I revisited something I hadn't thought about in years. The thing about Prince and the poodle. I floated my theory on Facebook that the legend had moved Paisley amoeba-like from town to town, but at first no one else seemed to have heard it. Then a friend responded in a really unexpected way by sharing this. Now, dig, if you will, an article by a reporter named Tony Kiss. It seems that Prince was en route to a gig and somewhere out on I-40 was suddenly struck with the burning need to have a non-housebroken puppy on his tour bus for some reason. So he stopped off at our mall, strutted in wearing a floor-length fur coat with no shirt, white leather pants, and purple knee boots, because of course he did, put the poodle on his MasterCard, signed some autographs, and left. Thankfully, there's nothing about a subsequent hair care-related tragedy befalling the poodle. I know this may not seem like that big a deal, Prince at a mall buying a dog, but this revelation was an unexpected bit of joy amid the loss. I wouldn't put it on par with, say, finding out that Santa Claus existed after all, but it was strangely comforting to learn that Prince's tenuous connection to a childhood memory of mine, this weird thing I'd long since dismissed as apocryphal, was in fact real. The pet store is gone now, but there should be a plaque at that end of the mall. Prince did something super Princey here one day. I smile whenever I think about it, and these days I'll take my purple bananas wherever I can find them. Thank you.
Honey, I say, little red Corvette, baby, you're much too fast.